Across the Caribbean, a change is taking place.
These days now are getting much warmer than they used to be.
I have seen a big change, a reasonably big change, over my lifetime. And the island is much greener now than it used to be 30 years ago.
We starting off the village to the next end, there was sand. There were trees and the catching of fish was long time better.
Some say these are the beginning effects of climate change. What is climate change? Is it really happening? Why? What can we do about it? I'm Ramon Dodson. Why we in the Caribbean should be concerned about climate change and why we need to heed the call. Let's all adapt. Before we can understand how the climate is changing, we need to understand what it is.
Climate is more or less a look at the average weather. It's also looking at long-term state of the atmosphere. Unlike weather, we tend to use this slogan here at CDEMA that weather is what you get and climate is what you expect. So what you expect is what you're accustomed to having on average or as a normal. But weather can change from day to day. It could be different one time of the year in 1 year, and at that same time of the year in another year it could be absolutely different.
Very little in the world is absolutely constant. The climate certainly is not.
Climate variability tends to discuss the changes on a shorter term. We would expect normally that rainfall is expected to be a certain amount in the wet period, a certain amount in the dry period. But essentially we know that from year to year we had dry seasons that were wet and we had wet seasons that were drier than normal. So that's variability, because you can average it, but there's a range, there are ranges of experiences we have around that average. The trends it suggests here, for example, what has been happening over the last few decades. We are in the trends, we are definitely seeing an increase in the temperature. Statistically significant increases, should I say.
With respect to rainfall, however, there is difficulty identifying a trend connected with greenhouse gas emissions by man, referred to sometimes as anthropogenic climate change.
It doesn't mean that it wouldn't eventually happen. What we are saying at this time, that a lot of the rainfall decline trends across the Caribbean, we have not yet witnessed statistically. But we do want to understand that once one thing in the atmosphere changes, temperature for example, that we are seeing the current trends, eventually we would expect other things will change. Maybe certain responses lag others in time, but with time we would see some changes in the other aspects of climate. We are expecting that by the end of the century we'll be a few degrees Celsius warmer in the Caribbean, and maybe anywhere from 20-25 to 50% drier in certain parts of the Caribbean.
The reason we are seeing what we call climate change, which is global warming, is as a result of the way we have used fossil fuel since the Industrial Revolution. We feel that there's an accumulation of certain types of gases in the atmosphere that basically shields the radiation on its way out from the Earth after the Earth is warmed by the sun, and more or less acts as a greenhouse, traps that heat, causing global temperatures to rise.
What then are the weather-related hazards that climate change will affect?
Hazards such as rainfall, heavy rainfall, and that can be associated with extreme weather events such as hurricanes, and if we have hurricanes we also would have very strong winds. Sometimes these extreme rainfall events can cause flooding, which can also cause landslides, and that can also cause mud flows. We also note that amongst the hazards that climate change will bring will be things like drought,
In addition, the rising global temperatures we're experiencing are causing the level of the sea to rise.
We've been losing our beaches through erosion, and the coastline has been receding at an alarming rate.
As the climate changes, so too does our weather, environment, and the land on which we live. What we are observing now is just the start, and scientists are predicting much more is yet to come.